Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this video is if you have your natal Mars in the 11th house. Mars is the god of war, and it has that warrior energy, which makes it very aggressive. It can be your drive, how you assert yourself in the world, your type of the way of expressing anger. It can be the sex drive. It can be just, like how you pursue your goals. Not everybody pursues things in the same way. And the 11th house is the house of the collective. It's the house of groups of people. And it's the humanitarian house. It's the house of your hopes and wishes. So suffice it to say, if you have Mars in your 11th house, you go after your dreams aggressively. You're not waiting for things to drop in your lap. And the 11th house can be what the universe has given to you. Now, I'm compiling this list from advancedastrology.com. And when I go on a website or read a book about, let's say, the planets in various houses, it's not unusual for me to learn new things or for me to question these new things. And sometimes maybe it's the way that they're being explained. Let me see if I can find exactly what because I try to paraphrase. I don't just like write down exactly what they say. And I may have paraphrased it in a way that makes it even more confusing. So this is advancedastrology.com. It says how the universe supports you. They said in astrology, the 11th house shows everything that comes into your life, including material goods. Now, I had never read it described like that before, and because I'm thinking about my own chart, and it's not that clear to me. It's hard for me to grasp it, because it sounds so general to me. But let's put it this way. Definitely with your hopes and dreams, you can be very aggressive in pursuing them. And you might say, well, duh, who wouldn't be? A lot of people hope for something, but they don't even think to take any concrete steps in attaining it. Because there's this feeling like if it's a dream, it's going to just happen to me. I'm not going to have to lift a finger. And there's a very active quality with Mars. So people like this, I think, will tend to be successful because they're not waiting for the universe to just shower them with blessings. They're like going to take advantage of all of the luck. Maybe that's what they mean, because I've heard that this is the luckiest house. But, there's also the term you make your own luck. So sometimes people can be fortunate, but they take it for granted. And somebody with Mars in the 11th is very active when it comes to pursuing their dreams. Now, the 11th house is called the house of gains. And I think that has to do with being the second from the 10th house or something like that. But anyway, what do you care? The point is that you can make more money than average. That's the important thing to take away from that. And part of this is because I think you are so actively pursuing things that success follows your efforts. This can make you a real freedom fighter for yourself and for other people. Mars is fiery energy, and that can mean that you are, the element of fire is the element of individuality. And the 11th house, because it is ruled by Aquarius and its ruler Uranus in particular, is all about nonconformity. So there's a rebellious quality of Mars in the 11th house. especially as it relates to society, societal dictates. Somebody with Mars in the 11th, I'm thinking of that. I think it's a famous quote by Marlon Brando in one of his earlier movies, and they say, "What are you rebelling against?" And he says, "What do you got?" But specifically with the 11th house, it's going to be connected with with other people, and this is because this is a humanitarian house. This can relate to politics. So, I I call this a social justice warrior position, because people like this, because they tend to get involved in groups, and this is humanitarian concerns, they can be like riled up about injustices in the world. And especially if you have, I would say, if you have Mars in Libra, or even in Aquarius, the sign that rules the 11th house, which is, by the way, that can be the reformer, or this is the house of, wanting to reform society and better it. That's what, obviously, when you're reforming something, you're not making it worse. But there can be a very rebellious quality, and I do think that this can be a political position. They didn't really emphasize that, but I think that that could be a big thing. But what I would say in that case is look to your end game, especially look in your chart to see if you have any kind of like hard angles to Mars. Because, like, for instance, if you have a square or opposition or even a conjunction from Mars to Neptune, you may be or even like look to your, if it, see what your moon and or Mercury, if it's making aspects to Neptune, because there can be like a dreamy idealism that you're trying to implement, put into action, through your actions that you're taking. But sometimes they may be, it might be like barking up the wrong tree, because I often have this, I don't know if you call it a debate, but I would ask people if this is a world of contrast, because it's easy to see when things are unfair and want to make them right, but that may be done by design, where we see that there's injustice so that we are spurred into action, but that we don't get consumed by the injustice. Because there has to be some sort of detachment. Like I said, this is a fiery placement, and the person may get caught up in that passion and forget the plot, forget what they're trying to do, which is to, help matters along. And so some people become very upset when they don't see progress, or maybe don't see it soon enough. And that's also, they didn't mention that, but Mars can be very impatient and very impulsive. So if you do have these tendencies towards activism, be very, and especially if you have contacts with your Mars to Neptune or Pluto, where that could even get kind of violent. So you want to be careful that your passion doesn't get carried away, because you don't want to be a martyr for a cause. Well, it's your choice, but you want to you don't want to get sucked into something beyond your control. So look to see what else is in the 11th house, and make sure that you are doing things for the right reasons, and that you know exactly what you're doing. Sometimes Mars can be very impulsive, and if you have these kinds of hard angles with Mars, it may lead to being very like out of control, even more rebellious. And by the way, yeah, look at the sign that Mars is in, Aries, the sign that it rules. Wow, that's very, very fiery and rebellious. So you work well with others. Now, this is them saying this. I find this hard to believe because Mars in the 11th house is like having Mars in Aquarius. And not to say that people with Mars in Aquarius are, that they can't get along with other people, because that is going to be their main thrust. However, Mars can be quite headstrong, and Aquarius is is a contrarian. So people who do like literally have Mars in Aquarius tend to be obstinate and very, very, to me, uncooperative. So when they're dealing with other people, it isn't that they don't like the group dynamic, but they just may always have that urge to stand apart from the group, which is, they're supposed to be the group. But so that makes them uncooperative sometimes because they want to be so nonconformist. But I'm trying to see here. That's what they say. They say that you work well with others. And probably because there's harmony between the elements of fire and air, which is the element of the 11th house. So I'm just giving you what they say. You prefer to, or I don't know if you prefer, but you will be very, you will be more effective probably if you're working with others, and you'll just gravitate towards that type of scenario rather than just working by yourself. You have a flair for networking, and that can help you. Now, here's another thing that was very interesting. The 11th house is a succedent house. What this means is that it is coming after an angular house. So the angular houses are the 1st, 4th, 7th, and 10th houses. So the succedent houses are the 2nd, the 5th, the 8th, and the 11th houses. And the matters of the succedent houses, whatever is going on in these houses, they support those angular houses. Now, the angular houses are considered to be where the action is lying. So, for instance, in this particular case with the 11th house, the 10th house is the house of career. It's at the top of the chart. So it is very front and center and important in a person's life. Even if you are someone who is a homemaker and you do not have a career per se, you could say that motherhood or parenthood or raising children or taking care of the home is your vocation or your profession. That's your choice to say that. But you're not out in the world, and the 10th house can be your public reputation. But you still may have something going on in that 10th house that connects you, whether it's status, maybe your spouse has a status in society, and by virtue of them, you are also elevated to that. I don't know. But in this case, the 11th house, that networking can benefit you in your career. The friends that you make can benefit you, like knowing, what they say, knowing people in high places, that can benefit your career. So this is very interesting. You take the initiative in social interactions because Mars is very aggressive, or you could say assertive. You don't wait for other people to come to you and introduce themselves. You are the one. And so One of the things that they said here was energized by social contact, and I put in parentheses extrovert. Now, I read somewhere that extroverts are people who are energized by their social interactions, and introverts are drained by them. I'm an introvert. So when I read that thing, I thought, that is brilliant. That is absolutely brilliant. So typically, now my sun is in Sagittarius, which is a masculine sign. The air and the fire signs will typically be extroverts naturally, but that is simply not the case. You will have to look at the chart to see better if somebody is like that. But you, even if you're like, I don't know, somebody who I'd call shy, like a Virgo, Pisces, Cancer, I don't know, something like that. If you have Mars in the 11th house, this may make you kind of like, or maybe the sun in the 12th house and you have Mars in the 11th house, you may kind of counter that narrative about people who have the sun in the 12th house as being very reclusive. You might be much more of a social butterfly than it makes sense for you to be. Okay. You're passionate about your friendships and the groups that you belong to. Okay, well, I think that I've covered everything. I'm actually surprised that I was able to find all this info because I have, touched upon this in private readings and I didn't do it justice. The way that I've done it here, of course you can't when, you can't talk about something this long in a private reading. But still, I was kind of nervous about doing Mars in the 11th house because I didn't think I would find much of anything to talk about. So I'm glad that I was able to find this information. And I hope that you enjoyed this. If you would like a private reading, the link is below. I'm at rainandmoonastrology.com. Take care. Bye.